So in the last video, we gave you a 10,000 foot view of how to do these internal shifts. And overwhelmingly, the feedback that I got a lot of from you was to make more videos about this. And actually, I'm going to make a playlist on internal shifts alone, so you guys can see all the lessons that we have on internal shifts, all for free on my channel. But this is why I want to make this next video on internal paradigm shifts, part 2. And this is all about giving you an in-depth view of the how to do this. And guys, I'm going to be making more of these deeper videos going forward. So if you want more videos like this, where we really can geek out about relationships and psychology to make you, it just can show up in your best self for your relationship, for your children, for yourself, then subscribe to this channel, click the bell button when I post new videos, because I'm going to make a series, a playlist of all these things, of internal shifts, of frameworks, for example. So before we go too deep, let's give a quick recap on what we talked about in the last video. So let's talk about why this is very, very crucial first. So number one, this is very crucial, guys, to build the 5 pillars. And 5 pillars, if you haven't joined my masterclass, guys, is the crucial 5 pillars if you want to ever reconcile, lead relationships, or take it to a thriving place. Like if I look at my relationship, for example, the reason why I'm able to create so much safety, for example, admiration, etc., is because I have such a strong internal shifts that every time I perform in my relationship, I either interact with my partner, I am driven by really, really strong mindsets that allows me to just say the right things naturally and do and say the right things that actually creates more safety, creates more of that bond. And without the internal shifts, you're going to find that you can try to do the correct things, but the correct things may not look and sound genuine. And so a lot of you guys who are struggling with this notion of your partner seeing your changes logically, but she cannot feel their changes, usually the internal shifts are the one that is off. It's also crucial to leading and flipping the script here, because it's going to be very, very impossible to go through what we call paradox of change and lead negative into positive. And if you are in a position where your relationship is doing badly, you will feel what we call the paradox of change. So again, we talked about this in the last video. I'm not going to belabor this point too much. It's also crucial to falling outcomes. Again, they call it falling in love for a reason, because falling in love is very much a falling outcome. And like we talked about in the previous video, if you are trying to do the correct things without the correct internal shifts, you're going to do the right things, but your partner's going to feel like it's really hard for her to fall in love and fall into trust. And it's also the key to lasting results. You know, if you look at a lot of my client stories, you will see very few people relapsing. And it's again because not only are they really good at their performance, but they're also backing that performance with really, really solid mindsets. So if you look at any performance, like being a basketball player, for example, being a great golfer, being a great singer, a great dancer, yes, it's one thing for you to master the art of that skill, but you'll always hear pros saying this. 90% of the game is really about mindset. The people who can stay successful for decades, they have not only the right skills, but also they back it up with the right mindsets, right? And it's a key to creating that positive feedback loop as well. And in the last video too, we also showed you a bit about the what. Basically, if you want to change your outcomes, you need to change your actions. Obviously, you need to change the way you perform. You need to perform better. And if you want to change your actions, you need to change your emotions. No matter how we cut it, people act via emotions. If you are trying to do the positive action, but you're already feeling angry inside, you can try to do this action all you want, but it's not going to be genuine. It's also not going to be very long lasting. It's not going to be very consistent. And if you want to change your emotion, you need to change the way you see it, the way you interpret it. And if you want to change your interpretation, you need to change your paradigms. And if you want to change your paradigms, you need to look at the key mind viruses, the big 14 mind viruses that we told you about, that really destroy your paradigms, that destroy everything else from here. This is really the root. So the mistake a lot of people make is thinking that the event causes the emotion here. And so for example, your partner does something, says something to hurt your feelings, right? So if your partner says something bad, you feel bad. But really, your partner, your partner saying something to you or something happening to you cannot make you feel bad. It's how you see it. And we gave you some examples of this in the last video, but we'll give you more examples of this as we proceed in this video. And so how this differs from a lot of other approaches is that most approaches, if you look at therapy, if you look at other approaches to emotional management, they will either try to change the event from happening. So, hey, take yourself away from difficult moments, for example, or they will try to change the emotion. They will try to change your action without changing your emotion too. So, for example, here we take a look at breathing, we take a look at journaling. Right here, hey, even though you feel bad, do the right thing anyway. So they're mostly operating up top here in the event, emotion, action side. But we are trying to operate, when we try to create the right internal shifts, we're trying to operate in this lower level. The benefit to this is that short term, not only does this allow you to rescue yourself, so if you have a lot of great reinterpretations for the big 14 mind viruses, basically, when you're falling for it, you can rescue yourself in the moment. But as you slowly program for the long term your paradigms in a different way, naturally your interpretation will become more positive, and naturally, even given a negative event, you can feel positive things. And when I see a lot of people's lives, a lot of people are very, very enslaved to what they feel, right? So if they feel negative emotions, they just kind of accept that, hey, things are negative right now. But when you can master this process of solving and fixing and remedying the big 14, really optimizing your paradigms, you are basically living a life where you can feel positively about anything that happens. Think about that for a second. That's a very, very powerful skill to have in life, in relationships. That'll make you a great leader. And to be honest, when my clients get to the point where they master this process, they do a lot in terms of getting their partner to feel safe, also drawing their partner into the relationship. I mean, just look at your life, right? If you had someone who is always so positive, is always so calm and collected, and they are just very solid, like a rock at every point in time, can you feel safe with that person? Do you want to follow that person? Do you want to be led by that person? Right? Do you admire that person? The answer is quite obvious. So this is again why these internal shifts are crucial. And the idea behind the Big 14 is to pick the lowest layer of the Big 14, so the biggest, strongest mind virus you have, and create a reinterpretation, an auto-suggestion, as you will, to raise that up. And then you pick another layer, raise it up, raise it up. And as you raise this whole thing, like this, if you raise all the layers, right, your average internal shift, internals become higher. And when this happens, you keep going, right? So this is how you slowly raise the level of your internal shifts. Now, so basically, what happens is, as you fix this, you raise that bar of your internal shifts. Naturally, for whatever events happening, so, in life, maybe you get 10 good events, 10 bad events, you're going to interpret more and more of those things in a positive way as opportunities. You're going to feel more positive things. You're going to do more positive things. You're going to get more positive outcomes to turn those negatives into positives and repeat. That's what we want. All right. And the final thing I'll say before we go to the meat of this video is that there's really a 3-stage shift that needs to happen here. So once you feel an emotion, you want to go to what we call the state of consciousness, where we observe those emotions first. We don't want to reject it, and then we want to shift it with our auto suggestions, and then we want to observe the new feelings. Now, in this video, we're not going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this shift, how to shift. And we're going to talk about this part in the next part 3 of this video. But if you don't know what this is, again, go to the first video before you move on, okay? You're not going to understand this one. So before we talk about the how of these internal shifts, we need to really get acquainted with what we call the Big 14. And I want you to think about this very similarly to a physical virus. If you are talking about a physical virus, you need to know, if you go to the doctor needs to know what exact strain of virus you have or sicknesses you have before they can give you a treatment plan. If you don't know what virus you have, you don't know what vaccine to put, right? So same thing, if you don't know what strain of mind virus you have, you don't really know what to shift or create an auto-suggestion on. There's no treatment for that. So this is just a quick snapshot of what the Big 14 mind viruses are. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this just yet, because for you to really understand what these mean, you need to understand that each of these victim mindsets, for example, DODs, bulletproof vests, they have what we call a modus operandi. They have a specific MO. and how they work and why most people fall for it and why they fall for it blindly as well. So let's talk about that a bit. So victim mindsets, their MO is that they allow you to blame your issues on factors that are outside your locus of control. Now, we talk about this reward and punishment in the previous video, where we said falling for this victim mindsets, what happens is they reward you right now. They reward you right now, but they punish you much later. So, for example, if you, let's say, fall for unique circumstance solution. So this is when you tell yourself, for example, hey, my case is unique. My case is so different. My case is much harder than the many client stories that I've seen on Jeff's channel. When you do this, you are basically rewarding yourself by absolving yourself of the blame when you don't do the work. It absolves you of the work. It's also very cathartic. So if you tell yourself right now, my situation is very unique, someone can be giving you solutions to your problem and saying like, hey, your problem is not that unique. You can actually do something about it. But if you still maintain your case is unique, what happens? When you don't do anything about it, the excuse you can have in your mind is like, well, my case is unique. These solutions, they don't apply to me, right? So I can't do anything about it. So when you don't do anything about it and nothing happens, no improvement happens, you don't feel as guilty. But again, the punishment is that when you think your situation is unique, you're absolving your power in the long term. You will get the same outcomes. You'll get the same cycles. You'll rob yourself of self-growth because, again, you don't do anything about it. So here's another example of how, if you go back to the slide here, if an event happens, let's say, your partner says something and wants a divorce, and your paradigms tell you, guided by the big 14 mind viruses, that, hey, my case is kind of unique here. Obviously, when you see this, you interpret this as like, well, nothing I can do about it. You feel hopeless. You do as if you're hopeless. And the outcome, what happens? Nothing, right? So why, again, do we fall for this big 14? Because, again, it rewards you right now, but it punishes you much later. But let's say, in this case, that now I convince you that your situation is not unique anymore, that there is something you can do, and there is something you can do to remedy the situation, to fix yourself, to fix the relationship, whatever it is. What happens when you still choose to not do the work after you realize that your situation is not unique, that there is a solution? Now, if you still choose to not do the work, you feel guilty. So again, when you get out of this victim mindset, now you get punished right now. You get punished right now because now you have to do the work. You have to take the blame. But it will reward you later. Because now, if you realize, hey, I can do something about this, I need to do something about this, the same event can happen, but then now you're guided by the non-victim mindset, and you interpret it as like, hey, something bad is happening. Hey, I can do something about this. I need to do something about this. And so you feel hopeful, you feel motivated, and you take action that is motivated, you grow, and you have a chance now of changing your outcome. So it punishes you now because now you have to take the work, but it rewards you much later. Do you see that? And you can think about this the same way for everything else. So for example, equal blame illusion is when we blame our partner. So it's when people say, for example, well, she's not doing the work, so why should I? She's being mean to me, so why should I be nice to her? Doing that, think about how that rewards you now by absolving you of the work, but it's going to punish you later. Same thing for this. This is when we're thinking about how perfect we are. So because we're already perfect, there's not much we need to do anymore. There's a rewards and punishment paradox here. Hope illusion is when you just simply hope that the future will be better. You're not going to do any work, but you're basically saying whether my future is going to be good or bad is really dependent on fate. It's my destiny kind of thing. So there's something I can do right now. It's all fate. Same for blame the system. Sometimes people go into the program and they think the program is very complex, for example, and they kind of shy away from the complexity, the challenge. What they're saying basically is, the reason why I cannot get to the results is because the program, the system is just too complex. And so this is the people who will say, for example, like, why are we women so complex? Why are relationships so complicated? Why are relationships so difficult? They're really trying to blame the system so that when they fail, they can say, well, because, it's just complex. So you see, once you understand the MO behind the victim mindset, you can understand the what behind these 5 and how these 5 actually manifest. Now we move on to the disguise of desire. So the DODs are really the branches of mind viruses that keeps you very tethered. So this is what will keep you very focused on the outcomes, the circumstance, and others. So this is what we call TBUs, true but useless. And it's going to shift your attention away from the actual processes that matter. So, when you fall for the DODs, what it does is it gives you the illusion that you're doing something productive, but in the long term, it's just going to give you a lot of useless anxiety. It's going to give you the same outcomes, etc. And a great example of a DOD here is self-flagellation illusion. So let's take any athlete, for example. When I was younger, I used to play golf a lot. And whenever I hit a bad shot, I would make it a point to throw a tantrum, to express my disgust at that shot and get upset at myself for it. And, getting upset at myself, well, on the surface, it makes me look bad and feel bad. It actually made me feel good in a way, because it made me feel like I was taking responsibility and atoning for my mistake. And I think a lot of us, when we are trying to save our relationship and we look at a lot of the bad things they've done in our relationship, we often just keep beating ourselves. And that beating ourselves, while it's not pleasurable, is satisfying because it at least shows the world. It makes us feel like we're telling the world that I am atoning for my sins. It's almost like the same reason why, if you look at religious people back then, when they commit a sin, they like to whip themselves. They like to self-flagellate, right? Because them suffering makes them feel like they're atoning. They're atoning for their sins. They're atoning for their bad behavior. They're taking responsibility for it. But while self-flagellation is satisfying in that way, think about it. What does beating yourself up on the golf course, in athletics, in relationships, in religion too, what does it do for you? Does it help you grow? Does it help you learn? Do people actually want it? It's kind of, again, useless anxiety. So it's, again, another way where we can focus on the outcomes and feeling bad about the outcomes. And there's a reason for us to stray away from that process. Another example of this is, let's say, importance illusion, which is right here. So, when I was playing golf too, I used to get myself really nervous before the game, before a tournament, because if I wasn't nervous, it would feel kind of funny. Like, do I care about this? Do I care about what I'm doing here? So feeling nervous, while it's not pleasurable, it gives me the illusion that I'm doing something productive. And in this case, I was projecting to the world that this means a lot to me, that I care about this. But really, when I feel that importance illusion, it actually makes me less capable. It makes me choke more often. So, the funny thing is, the epiphany that I've had is, if you really care about something, if you really care about an outcome, then all the more reason you don't want to fall for the importance illusion. Because, so for example, if I care about winning that tournament, then ironically, the more I should untether from trying to get the outcome. I should just focus on the process. The same thing, if you, let's say, care about your kids, if you, let's say, care about your wife, if you, let's say, care about your relationship, a lot of people say this. A lot of people say, well, Jeff, how do you expect me to just untether? Because I care about my kids a lot. Like, I understand, but you caring via your importance illusion right now hasn't actually made you do anything good. So you're saying I'm doing bad things and I cannot help do bad things because I care. That's batshit crazy. If you really care, stop thinking about the true but useless. Start focusing on the process of mastering, for example, internal shifts, of mastering frameworks, of executing internal shifts, of executing frameworks. That's all you can do. If you really care about winning this tournament, then just focus on the process of practicing, Focus on your pre-shot routine. Focus on the process, each hole, each shot. You thinking about the trophy, you thinking about how important this is not going to help. Do you see? So that's actually the hardest part with DODs and disguises, is that these are the hardest one to spot, because we've been trained as a society to fall for these, but none of those things actually help you. So this is how the DODs work. And once you understand how the DODs work, how they lie to you, how they trick you, you begin to understand this a lot deeper as well. Finish line illusion is when you're telling yourself, for example, that you're so close to the finish line. And because you're so close to the finish line, you start to then maybe feel importance illusion as well. So basically, I always tell my clients this joke where, let's say you want to pee. You can be holding your pee for 2 goddamn hours, but it's the last 10 seconds before you get to the bathroom that you really want to pee. Why is that? Finish line illusion. Think about it, right? Good enough illusion is when you think you're good enough, you convince yourself that you're good enough, so you don't need to focus on the process anymore, because now you deserve the outcome. You deserve the outcome. Now you start to focus on the outcome and not the process anymore. You don't need to focus on the process. Again, it gives you the illusion you're doing something productive, but it gives you useless anxiety. Okay. Unique. So this is the same as the previous one, but a different manifestation of it, and lack of opportunities. So sometimes people come to the program and they say, well, my wife is really in no contact, or she's stonewalling me right now, so I have no opportunities to, again, focus on the process, and I'm focusing on the circumstance here. And finally, we go to the bulletproof vest. We have 2 here: allergy to resistance and FAE bias. And really, these are just advanced forms of DODs and victim mindsets. It really protects you from scary moments, people, things, and thoughts. Right. So if you, let's say, get resistance from your partner and you resist that resistance, you get scared of it, you stay away from it, you escape from it, it's protecting you from scary moments, people, things, and thoughts. But really, if you have watched my video a lot, if you run away from challenges like that, it will never lead to anything good. It will lead you to the same outcomes, because it robs you of self-growth. Because again, if you talk about your internal states, your internal growth, when do you grow? You grow through challenge. So whenever you shy away from challenge, you're basically robbing yourself of your chance to grow. How do we build trust? We build trust not from how you handle things, how you handle the millions of easy moments. We build trust by how we handle the few really, really tough moments. So when you get really tough moments and you shy away from it, yes, it protects you from scary moments. That's a reward you get immediately, but it will punish you later. Leaning into challenge punishes you now, but will reward you later. You see that? Okay. So I know that was a lot. So I want you to take a screenshot of this and really think to yourself, okay, given the MO of the victim mindset, DODs, and bulletproof vest, how does me falling for blame the system illusion, how does it reward me now? And how does it punish me later? And why do I fall for this? And how have I fallen for this too? Look at it, think about how you've fallen for this, and go through the same exercise for all of these. Same thing here. When you look at self-flagellation illusion, think about how this operates. Think about the reward that it gives you right now, and think about the punishment it gives you later. And think about the opposite of it, not falling for it. How does it punish you now? And how does it reward you later? And once you do this, start thinking about, how have you fallen for this in the past? How? Think about it very deeply, okay? Now, the reason why it's important for you to think very deeply about this is because the first step to making that shift is to find the root layers. To understand this, look at colors, for example. You have infinite colors in the spectrum, infinite colors. But behind these infinite colors, there's really only 3 primary colors. There's red, green, and blue if you're talking about light pigment, right? Light, not pigment. Pigment has 3 different primary colors, but to make an infinite array of colors, you just need 3 colors. So when you see purple, for example, you don't think purple is a new color. Purple is just a unique concoction of RGB. Think about it. So same thing here. Whatever emotions you feel is not a new emotion. It's just a mixture of victim mindsets, DODs, or BPV. And so basically here, Let's go back to this again, just to make sure you understand this. Whatever interpretations you make that causes your emotions, all the interpretations you can make are determined by your paradigms, and your paradigms are determined really by unique concoction of the big 14 mind viruses. And I know this because I've been doing this process of spotting what mind viruses I have. And every single time, guys, I have a negative emotion, it's always a unique concoction of these 14. So it could be, for example, that, okay, I feel a certain thing and it's a mixture of this, and this, and this, for example, right? So whatever negative emotions you feel are always a unique concoction of these three categories of mind virus, or the big 14. So what my clients learn is they learn to get really, really good at identifying whenever they feel something. They straight away learn to identify which of the big 14 is contributing to those feelings. So for example, what you see here is an example of one of the worksheets that we have in the program. So we have people say like, okay, stage 1, finding your weakest layer. Date, time. What is your event trigger? What is your negative emotion? So what is your negative interpretation here? And what are the broken layers to the BPV? And I want you to collect this, right? So basically, as you do this, you'll say, okay, for this instance, I kind of fell for EB illusion, equal blame illusion, 30%. I think it's 30%. Here, maybe 15% contribution. Here, maybe 50% contribution. Ooh, right? And so later on, as you do more and more of this, you'll begin to realize, ooh, maybe this is my weakest layer. Maybe this is the root mind virus that is killing me internally right now. So you start of the big 14 now, you begin to create your reinterpretation on that layer first, because that's, again, the weakest layer you have. So if you look at this again, right, this is you finding, again, this weakest layer right here. Oop, you want to raise that up. So the first step, again, is to find the root layer. And we have a very scientific way of how you can find that root layer. And the reason why I told you guys to think about, hey, for each of these big 14, I want you to really think about what they are and how they work and how you've fallen for it in the past. Because a lot of people, when they do this exercise, they can feel the event trigger, they can feel the negative emotion, but often they don't make the connection between here to here. Because again, if you don't know how, for example, the unique circumstance illusion works, how they reward you now, how they lie to you, why you fall for those illusions, you're going to be falling for those illusions right here, but you're not going to understand that it's because of equal blame illusion. It's because of a certain victim mindset. It's because of this. We don't often connect those dots. So for you to connect those dots, you have to have done some thinking about how they've manifested, so that the next time you see the illusion, you're like, I got it. I see it. I see the illusion right there. But because they present themselves as such an illusion, a lot of people, what happens is the illusion is staring them right in the face, but they can't see it because they haven't really understood what the illusion looks like, what to look for, etc. And once you find that root layer, we need to understand also that when we make a reinterpretation, when we make the autosuggestion, we want to make it to that root layer and not really to the emotion itself. So the best analogy I can give you here is, if you look at this like colors again, right? Imagine there's just 3 mind viruses now instead of the 14. Now, these 3 mind viruses can create infinite emotions. So the mistake a lot of people make is to try to create a reinterpretation on the emotions itself, on the event itself. But here we're saying, don't do that. Because if you do that, you are going to need to create infinite interpretations. But here, if you have an interpretation for VM, for DOD, for BPV, you only need to make 3. So for a lot of my clients, when you have made 14 amazing reinterpretations that solves all these things, you'll find that you will start to solve and fix infinite emotions. So there's not a lot of auto suggestions to do here. So now that we find the root layer, though, how do we create the thriving auto suggestions? So again, the main point here is that we want to, right now, we are facing this mind virus the mind virus, we fall for it because it tricks you by convincing you that there's a reward there. Immediate reward, delayed punishment. So we want whatever reinterpretation we have, we want to allow it to shift us away from that lie, from that illusion, from falling for the disguise and into the treatment. And the treatment is harder to do to shift into, because again, any treatment here has delayed reward, but immediate punishment. So one of my employees, Jason, he was telling me about a story with his daughter and how, kids they don't want to take medicine. Now, the best way I found to get my kid to take medicine is to tell them basically, hey, if you don't take this medicine, yes, it's rewarding you right now, but you're going to feel like crap for longer. But kiddo, if you take this medicine right now, yes, it may taste bad right now, but you're going to feel so amazing later. So whenever you make a reinterpretation or an autosuggestion, you're basically giving yourself some medicine to fix your mind virus. But it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but you need to, again, have a very compelling reinterpretation to shift you away and into the treatment, for you to want that treatment, you see? So the structure of what a great reinterpretation looks like is really these 5 things. So what are the voices? How have they fucked me in the past? How are they fucking me now? What do I need to shift to? And then you want to mythologize this shift. That's the basic structure. That defines the what behind a great structure. Now, if you look at this structure, this part right here, these 3 parts right here, they're really the part where you're shifting away. Think about this. These are when you say to yourself, what are the voices of this victim mindset, this particular strain, that is the reason why it sounds so compelling, it sounds so sweet, it sounds so good. But this is where you're telling yourself, how sure they may be rewarding me now, but how have they fucked me many times in the past? This is you making it clear in your head of delayed punishment these VMs have, for example. And right now, this is the nail in the coffin. This is when you tell yourself, how are they fucking me right now? I'm about to fall for it again. Am I going to be fucked again? And then this part right here is when we're shifting into, okay, so instead of listening to these voices, what do I need to shift to? What do I need to listen to? What do I need to tell myself? And what happens? Why? Why do I need to tell myself this? Not only does your reinterpretation have to have this right structure to shift you away and into, but also they need to have the right how. They need to have the right tone, the right word choices, the right ammunition that makes it polarized and visceral for you. Okay? Polarized meaning this section, the away and into, needs to be polarized. You need to make this really bad, and you need to make this part really high. And they also need to be visceral, guys, because again, these guys, these mind viruses, they have a very compelling argument for you. The reason why you fall for this all the time is that they promise you immediate reward, but delayed punishment. That is very compelling. We need something more compelling, not only logically, but emotionally, for you to make the shift. If this voice is stronger than this voice, you're always going to be falling for this. Think of this as the angel and the devil here. You want to make your angel have the stronger voice. When we make these reinterpretations, we want to make sure that these reinterpretations are what we call thriving, not just surviving. So there's 3 levels of robustness that we can have in life. You have crumbling or fragile. Basically, with fragility, the more pressure you give something, the more likely you are to crumble. So inverse correlation. The next level is robust. The more pressure you give something, you're basically clenching your asshole to keep your shit in. That is okay, but that is not what being bulletproof means. You want to be thriving, or what we call anti-fragile. The more pressure you give something, the more you thrive. So a great reinterpretation can only be a great one if it's here. This is not a good one. This is not a good one. So let's give some examples here, okay? Let's, for example, take a look at the unique circumstance illusion, and let's try to use these principles of thriving and this structure to craft a reinterpretation right here. So if you think your situation is unique, What are the voices could be, hey, you always tell yourself that your situation is so different, is so much more dire, that while other people can do XYZ or get XYZ results, but you can't because those people, their situation is quite easy. My situation, though, is really hard. Number two, how they fucked me in the past. Now, this is when you talk to yourself and you say, for example, look, man, first of all, you assuming that other people did not have as many handicaps as you has really only led you to just do nothing when there's actually many things you can do. Think about this moment in your life, for example. Think about this moment in your life, for example. Think about this moment in your life, for example. Because you think this, think about how that has fucked you. Think about how that has robbed you of the outcome that you want, of growth that you want, of the life that you want, of the results that you want, etc. And right now, I know you're thinking and feeling like, again, your situation is special, dire, and whatever solutions people give you is not going to work. But don't you see? This is the exact way that this illusion has fucked you before, and it's about to fuck you in the ass again. So notice there, right? I'm using very specific, visceral examples to shift me away, to make me realize the fucking absurdity of falling for that victim mindset. Okay? It's thriving. It's visceral. It's strong. And the reason why I'm not afraid to use words like fucked here is because you need to really see how this has fucked you. Basically, you need to be looking at those disguises, those illusions that are staring in the face and trying to give you candy and shit and go like, fuck your candy. I don't want your fucking candy, right? It's a stupid candy. Your candy has made me feel sick every single time. Fuck your candy. You need to be make it very visceral here. Okay. Now here, what do I need to shift to? So instead of like continue to think about your situation is unique, I want you to just think about the 5 pillars, for example. Geoffrey right now has 100 different client interviews. Each of those client interviews, they have different people facing different things. But they all boil down to what? Safety issues, alignment issues, admiration issues, and passion issues. Now, think about this, okay? If you had enough safety in your relationship, for example, enough admiration, enough whatever, do you think your partner would have left you? Of course fucking not, you idiot. I mean, if she had the safety to actually express how she felt without penting it up for many goddamn years, why the fuck would she leave? If she was facing problems, sure, but she knows that this relationship is a place where she can share those problems and actually resolve it, why the fuck would she leave? Forget about why you think your situation is unique. Your situation is not. Because really, at the end of the day, you need to still focus on building safety, learn to build admiration. So basically here, guys, right? I'm shifting my attention towards, hey, all you gotta do is just build the 5 fucking pillars. And when you do build the 5 fucking pillars, think about what happens, okay? Think about how many people do you know in your life who has amazing safety in a relationship. Think about how many men can actually create that level of safety that I will be able to create if I focus on this shit. I'll be fucking irreplaceable. I'll be so fucking irreplaceable. There will be no guy like me. And if I become that person who can create that safety, why the fuck would she not choose me? I would choose me. See how they are visceral here as well. The what do I need to shift to is specific to the process that we have in the program, and I mythologize this shift. And I mythologize the shit out of that. It's visceral. And these two are very polarized. This is very negative. This part is very negative. This part is very positive. And they're also what we call thriving. They're not just me telling myself to go, just take it, bro. Just take it, bro. Right? It's actually allowing myself to see why the treatment is something I need to love. Right? Why this process I need to shift to is something I need to love. And I'm not going to give you too much here, guys, because in my experience with the program, for example, whenever I give people too much, examples, I tend to tunnel vision your creative energy to doing it my way. But again, think about this, right? What are the voices? How have they fucked me in the past, etc.? Those are questions that you should be able to answer better than I can, because I don't live your life. I don't know what the voices are in your head. I can't read your mind. I don't know your life enough to know how they fucked you in the past. And now what we do know is this, right? But again, what I don't know is what is the mythology that's going to press the right buttons for you. Only you know that. So use your understanding of the what, how, and why behind these layers to craft this yourself. For a lot of our advanced clients, they have this as not only just written work, but they actually make a video of this. They actually make a video of the autosuggestion. And so the sense that you want is almost like when you're making this autosuggestion, you're talking to a camera, but you want to imagine talking to a future version of yourself that is stubborn and falling for the mind viruses. So I want you to imagine you're standing in front of a version of yourself in the future, and this person in the future is falling for that mind virus. And you are trying to shake the living bejesus out of that guy to go, do not fucking fall for that anymore, you idiot. Focus on this instead. That's what you want. And so the reason why the video is much more visceral is because not only does it have an audio component, it has a visual component as well. So what happens then is you want to use this to program, rescue, and repeat. So with a lot of my clients, what they have is a library of autosuggestions. So they usually have 14 autosuggestions, each of which serves the big 14. So whenever you are feeling bad emotions, so let's say in this case, you're feeling bad emotions and you notice that I think this is a concoction of this, number 3, number 8, and number 13. Well, what do? You just pull your autosuggestion of number 3, number 8, and number 13. You let that envelop you. You listen to it. You watch it. You let that envelop you. You let them yourself feel it. And then you rescue yourself. So that's one application, is you can rescue yourself. You can also use these to program your mind. So basically here, if you go back to this again, one way you can use this is to, when a bad event happens, you have a bad emotion, go to your autosuggestions to change this and change this. So you can use it to rescue yourself. But you can also use it to program your paradigm so that before the event happens, you are really programming this stuff in your mind so that when the event happens in the future, your immediate interpretation is positive and your immediate emotion is positive. So there is both a short-term and a long-term application to your autosuggestions. Okay, and you want to do this for all the layers. So let's say you start with this layer, boom, you raise it up, boom, you raise it up, you raise it up, right? And as you do this, again, you start to up your overall internal state, right? And this keeps going. I've been doing this for 9 years, guys, and I'm always finding new lowest layers, new ways I'm falling for certain victim mindsets, new ways I'm falling for certain DODs, new ways I'm breaking my bulletproof vest, and I'm raising that, I'm raising that, I'm raising that. And a lot of you may feel awkward doing this, but I want you to think about something. I want you to think about how this mind viruses you have, there's a reason why these mind viruses have been winning. Because they have very compelling arguments, and you feeling awkward about trumping and talking back to these mind viruses is why these mind viruses are getting so strong in the first place. So whenever you feel awkward right now to do this, just understand that whether you do this or not, this will continue to fuck up your life, whether you do this or not. And you are actually already doing autosuggestions. You're just using the autosuggestions to improve your mind viruses. Because all of us have self-talk already. Right now, the self-talk, though, is negative. We need to start strengthening the angel here. So whenever you feel awkward, don't see the awkwardness as something to shy away from. To me, whenever I feel a process is awkward, I think about, is me feeling awkward about this? Is that why my mind virus is so strong and why my treatment is so shit? Because I mean, if you're feeling awkward for the angel to build up the angel, then of course the angel is shit, right? So maybe, again, this is another layer if you think about it. So right here, the event is I'm showing you, I'm telling you to do auto suggestions. Your emotion is that you feel awkward, so you don't do it. Of course, your outcome is shit. Well, why do you feel like shit? Because your interpretations, because your paradigms. I wonder, for this case, for example, I wonder which of the big 14 could be the problem. It could be this, right? It could be because you think you're already perfect. It could be because you think your situation is unique. It could be because, let's see, good enough, for example. It could be because of lack of opportunities. It could be because of allergy to resistance. It could be that you're afraid of challenge. You're afraid of something challenging, right? You see what I mean? So every single emotion you feel, even this, even you feeling awkward about doing this, is a combination of the big 14. See how beautiful that is? So just to finish off, right? Again, success in life is 90% mindset. So the reason why a lot of people cannot get the outcome they want is because their action sucks. And the reason why their action sucks is because their emotions suck. A lot of people try to take the right action with the wrong emotion before they even shift internally. They cannot ever do it. And even if they try to do it, they cannot do it for long and it cannot be genuine. And why does people's emotions suck? Their interpretations suck. Why? Because their paradigms suck. Why? Because they fall for the big 14. So when you begin to really master how to destroy the big 14 with auto suggestions, you basically fix everything from the inside out. So not only are you going to feel positively and feel better inside, but you feeling better inside is going to directly create safety, but also indirectly create safety by improving the way you interact, the way you talk, your actions, which leads to better outcomes as well. Okay. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. In the next video, we'll talk about seat of consciousness, which is, again, a massively important part of this process. Let's see, where are we? Because again, if you don't have your SOC before you shift, you're not even going to understand what you're shifting. And we're going to make that very clear in the next video. But I hope that was helpful for you guys. And if you want to explore a program that goes much deeper into this topic than what I can go through here, then I want you to join me in my masterclass. I'll leave the link down below this video for you if you want to join that masterclass, where we talk to you about the program that goes into this stuff really deeply. All right, guys. So with that said, hope that was helpful for you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.